Hello everyone, nice to see you on my channel. I think it's pretty safe to say that many of us are still learning how to work with all of the new features Figma delivered at their Config conference this year. As I was doing that as well, I started to realize how fast the way we are working with design systems is changing now. And I think that the fact that our tools change so much might indicate the change in how we think of design systems and how we imagine them in the future. And the future of design systems is exactly what I want to discuss today. This video will have multiple chapters dedicated to different aspects of the design system's future. It was heavily inspired by a collection of articles on Shortcut on that topic, as well as other materials from different platforms. All the links you can, as always, find in the description. I will not speak about what a design system is and how it is different from a style guide or from a UI kit and so on. All of that will be the subject of another video. Let's get started. The future of design systems is complicated. Design systems were at their peak in popularity a couple of years ago. There were dozens of new articles about design systems coming out every week. Many conversations, many hopes. Then the design community started to realize that design systems are not a silver bullet, but a pretty complicated and expensive tool that you need to constantly maintain. You can feel how increasingly complicated your design system is becoming, growing from a bunch of components collected on one screen to dozens of pages with different components and variants and Boolean properties. And the trend for growing complexity is something that doesn't seem to vanish anytime soon. It is equally true for systems themselves and for tools that we use to manage them. But why is that? Just because the world is also getting more complicated. Nowadays, you can rarely find an app that does only one thing. We expect digital products to do more and better, being accessible and intuitive at the same time. On the other hand, our understanding of how users interact with them is getting more sophisticated. Think about how the design looked like 10 years ago. Designers were drawing interfaces in the program for photo editing. Even when I just started, which was 4 years ago, so not so long ago, I saw layouts drawn purely in Photoshop, with no components, no variants, sometimes with prototypes, but mostly without. Now our tools are completely different, and in some sense, more complicated. But that's a good thing. I think of it this way: there's dumb and there's smart complexity. Dumb complexity is a consequence of our tools' imperfection. When you have to manually create 100 of connections to make a prototype, that's dumb complexity. But when you start to use variables and advanced prototyping to introduce flexibility and with that again complexity into your system, that is smart complexity. If you've had to learn the information sciences, you might remember the law of requisite variety, or Ashby's law. Only variety absorbs variety. In other words, the system needs to be slightly more complex than the current challenges to be ready to solve problems that are only about to appear. And if, as we discussed, our needs become more and more complex, so would our design systems in order to remain adequate. The complexity factor is fundamental. All the other aspects, in one way or another, are connected to the fact that design systems, along with our products, are evolving. Let's explore how we contain that complexity and what effect it will have on the way we work with design systems. The future of design systems is a work in progress. You know that feeling you have when you just passed a really hard exam? The sense of accomplishment, freedom and peace? Yeah, you will never have that one again if you want to work with design systems. There are a lot of talks about how we need our design systems to ensure consistency. And yes, it is true that one of the main goals of a design system is to tame chaos. On the one hand, it's a matter of trust and reliability. No one could work with a system that is constantly fluctuating. So there comes a point in your life as a design system keeper where you want to codify every little piece of design. And I understand that desire. This is one of my favorite parts of work, to ensure everything is consistent, because I am the agent of structure. But on the other hand, we should remember that design systems are supposed to lower the barrier for creative expression and make lives of our colleagues easier, not to make it harder. No design system is built to live unchanged forever. I like how Shopify's designer Jose Torre framed it. Rather than approaching design systems like architecture, we should approach it like gardening. Unlike architecture, where details are considered, built, and then done, a gardener plants seeds and tends to them. They know what they plant, but they don't know exactly what the garden is going to look like. Just as a plant may spread in unexpected ways, so too might a button or a menu emerge from within a carefully planned design system. That component might also spread, overtaking the garden entirely. Or perhaps a bulb never blooms, or a seedling requires more sun. The gardener or design systems manager can make adjustments as needed. It's very useful to think of your design system as a product, because it is. It has users like designers from different teams and developers, and it serves their needs. As any product, design systems also have a life cycle. In the beginning point, the system is newly born and probably really messy. Then it experiences massive growth. It is not ideal, but it adapts. You're supposed to always be somewhere there, because after the short moment of glory, when it seems finished and you stop maintaining it, it stops adapting and starts to die. Make peace with the fact that your design system will always remain work in progress, because that just means that you have progress. Be reasonable when setting a balance between freeform and structural design. As in any product, when it comes to design systems, regular reviews and evaluations can ensure we're building for the future, even if it's hard to predict the shape of complexity that's to come. Building a culture or a process where participants can contribute ideas, feedback, and even components allows the design systems team to continue to improve and broaden their reach. The future of design systems is automated. I mentioned the cost associated with having your own design system. The great news, this also might change pretty soon. We see a constantly growing number of tools that help designers to automate certain parts of their work. Plugins, widgets, AI-assisted tech. This new class of tools is changing the game. We make our tools and our tools make us. So let's visit Figma's popular plugin list to see what's in demand. Plugins for design systems are typically geared towards functionality, falling into two categories. Those that automate a series of existing tasks or extend a feature set such as gathering analytics, testing designs, improving accessibility, and more. From Figma's shortcut blog. At Figma, we see that in our own community pages. Icons and image generators that save creators time spent spinning up assets from scratch or compressing them are some of our most popular plugins, taking up half of the top 10 spots. Ours help automate flows, convert designs to HTML, or turn designs into slide decks. A common theme? Reducing complexity and streamlining workflows. Anything that keeps designers from having to leave one tool to grab something from another or repeat a series of clicks is fertile ground for a plugin. It's 2023, so we should give AI tools a separate consideration. As AI becomes more accessible, we can expect to see future functionalities, such as extending design systems to quickly stitch together new interfaces, or identifying potential issues and conflicts before they arise. Another opportunity for the technology is in the realm of documentation and guidance to help not just with compliance but with suggested usage. And since Figma now bought Diagram, a company that specializes in AI tools for designers, I'm interested to see how the tool that is a main tool for so many designers, Figma, will evolve in the future. And let's be honest, in product design there is a lot of work that is not only going to be, but should be automated. We don't know what the future holds, but with the rise of AI, many in the community are wondering what types of processes might be automated entirely. I wish I knew the future so that I could help guide my clients in those directions, says Nathan Curtis, design systems architect and founder of the UX firm 8Shapes. But I will say this, I've designed a button far more times than I would like to admit. I've designed token taxonomies, 30 or 40 times, and they all tend to have an action color group and an alert color group. They all have the same basic taxonomy choices, and sure, there are devilish things in the details, but broadly, they're the same patterns. So from that perspective, I don't anticipate many people paying me to do token taxonomies 5 years from now. These new technologies are posing some existential questions. What is the role of a designer in a world where design can be automated? A developer with auto-generated code? What does it mean for the future of the industry as a whole? I don't see AI taking over product designers' jobs. As I think of it now, it will simply allow me to focus on more interesting things, spend more time in workflows, research, accessibility, sustainability, ethics. Sounds much more fun than renaming layers at the very least. We also clearly see a trend to reducing the cost of creating and maintaining design systems through automation. This is the natural evolution of a system from something big and expensive to just another tool in a designer's toolbox that anyone can easily afford and use. The future of design systems is accessible. There is one particular area of design that could experience the biggest impact of design systems automation, and that is accessibility. The topic of accessibility in design absolutely deserves a separate video, but just to give you an idea of why it is so important to talk about. According to WebEM, as of last year, only 3% of internet resources are available to people with disabilities. The number is honestly outrageous. But it seems that design systems and accessibility guidelines should be the perfect pair. If you're creating a set of relatively stable blocks that all of your future designs will consist of, it should be easy enough to within accessibility requirements as well. Accessibility can be baked into every part of the design system, from carefully tested foreground and background colors to individual components, says Anna Zaremba, senior design lead at eBay. By promoting consistency, thorough documentation, and ongoing feedback, design systems provide the perfect scaffolding for implementing accessibility best practices across an entire product ecosystem. And things seem to slowly getting better. Material Design's research in 2020 suggests that 47% of respondents say that their design system contains accessibility guidelines. This is a great improvement compared to the year before, when accessibility was in the other category, which was around 8%. Now that there are more accessibility tools like Stark or Include, well-established standards such as the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG, and ever-compelling legal ramifications, we may finally move the needle. Since we have clear accessibility guidelines to follow, it seems logical to try and automate this part of the design process using AI. But we still can't hand over this part completely. AI can already be a valuable tool for automating certain aspects, but as we've seen with other use cases, it often falls short when it comes to tasks requiring human understanding and judgment. I recommend reading the article from the New York Times on that topic. The magazine writes the story about the blind radio enthusiast who often shopped for equipment at his favorite online shop. Everything was fine and he managed to use the website with his accessibility tools until the owners of the website purchased the accessibility overlay solution. The website was ruined and became completely inaccessible because of this overlay, despite the fact that the company that produced the solution was promoting it as a silver bullet for accessibility. That online shop and 400 more companies already faced legal action because of using this and similar plug-and-play tools. In many cases, simply implementing a clear navigation structure and semantic code would have created a more inclusive product than the disaster brought by this solution. Not all accessibility tools are bad, of course. Chancey Fleet, a blind library-based tech educator in New York, says there are some responsible implementations of the technology. She cites Apple's screen recognition, which works in tandem with VoiceOver to detect the layout of elements in the user interface, including apps that haven't been optimized for the tool. Apple really wants developers to engage in more accessible design and development practices. Screen recognition is something under the control of the user's discretion. They can enable it and see if it will solve a problem, Chancey explains. It is not an attempt to siphon market dollars away from genuine accessibility efforts. It is a way to furnish the users with an extra tool. So even though ensuring the accessibility of the product still requires a lot of attention from human designers, there is no doubt that design systems will become more and more powered by many different accessibility tools. A design system is the first thing to be transformed, because building in accessibility from day one means beginning with the design system that's accessible by default. By making sure that every design component and code element is aligned to accessibility standards at the outset, companies can prevent access issues further down the road. The future of design systems is open. This year's config had many highlights, but in regards to design systems, the biggest star is of course variables. I will try to explain what variables are, why we need them, and how they are different from tokens. Let's think about how we use and manage colors in design systems. In the beginning, you just use hex codes. You play with them, you try to identify what your color scheme will look like, then you realize that you need to store and reuse the colors, so you wrap them in styles, giving them names like green and hot jet, light blue, or accent color, and so on. Then you start thinking about how you can be sure that the colors are always used in the right way. So you come up with a way to specify which color should be used for a specific component or in a specific context. Now you have a whole bunch of color styles, many of which contain the same hex code. What you would like to do is to define your semantic style or component style through your global style. So if you feel like changing the accent color or one of the colors failed the accessibility test, for example, you would simply change the global color, and this change will affect all that is linked to it. That is the difference between the style and token. Tokens are bits of data that represent small repeatable design decisions such as border radii, sizing, typography, or colors. By separating design properties from specific components or implementation details, they allow for a more versatile platform-agnostic approach. So what are variables then, and why not stop on tokens? Let's say one day your boss comes to you and says that your customers are really asking for that dark mode feature. So now you need your global token to change depending on whether the customer uses the light or the dark mode. And token that could store multiple values is called a variable. Variables and nodes enable teams to switch designs between different contexts, such as light and dark themes, different languages, or screen sizes. Variables can also reference other variables, making it easier to update all the little details, be them padding, color, radii, or spacing. Remember, we started this video by questioning how could we tame chaos, which is a growing number of possible use cases, errors, accessibility requirements, and so on. The answer is that we're learning from people who are also dealing with complex systems. Variables historically are very much a developer concept, and now we're putting this interface around it that makes it more accessible for more people to be involved in that process. They are yet another step to minimizing the gap between design and code. They establish a shared language for designers and developers. Additionally, Figma's REST API with read and write access for variables and plugin API open the doors for a variety of ways to connect variables in Figma to tokens in code, even bidirectionally, from querying and reading to creating and deleting, as well as binding them to components. You can even define different code syntax depending on the platform right in Figma to make developers' lives easier and support a seamless handoff. We've already been borrowing practices from the developers community for some time, like branching and merging, for example. This practice allows teams to build their communities by enabling contributors to work on isolated branches without affecting the primary system. Nice way to tame chaos. Some companies now even make their design system open source, allowing anyone to contribute designs or replicate them, which is another phenomenon popular in the development world. By the way, if you're interested, you can check out the list of open design systems collected on designsystems.com. The link will be in the description. Perhaps the most direct example of that narrowing gap exists in Figma's new prototyping capabilities, enabled by variables. Variable values can be set and modified with prototyping actions to create fully functional prototypes that respond to user input. The stored values can be combined with expressions to generate dynamic string values, perform basic math operation with number values, or evaluate Boolean expressions similar to code, but of course without the code. This breaks down barriers so that anyone familiar with the feature can build a successful prototype, test their ideas, and gather the necessary feedback, instead of creating like hundreds of screens and thousands of connections to test just one single idea. And finally, we have dev mode now. Devs are acknowledged as rightful Figma users, along with designers, and now have their own space and set of features for comfortable work. To what does it all lead us? Design systems become more open for sharing experiences, and we will see more people with a variety of roles participating in the design process. It still feels like there is a fence that you throw your work over and an engineer picks it up on the other side, says Lauren. I'd like to see that get to a place where it's a much more collaborative or shared process. As design and code drift towards each other, roles and swim lanes will blur together. Soon steps might be skipped or eliminated entirely. Teams collectively will ship more and faster. Let's recap everything we discussed. Design systems will be more complicated. The design community is working on creating tools to cut off dumb complexity and introduce smart complexity, increasing flexibility. Some of the solutions are coming from the developers' world. Design systems will remain work in progress and should be treated as a product. To ensure design systems adequacy, teams need to establish a culture or process where participants can contribute ideas, feedback, or even components. Some parts of the design processes will be automated. We hope that AI will help us to do that and reduce the cost of creating and maintaining a design system. One of the areas that will benefit greatly from automation is accessibility, but we still need to be careful when using automation tools. And lastly, the future of design systems is open. Open for designers to take more and more cues from code or other areas, and open for people from different roles and backgrounds to participate in the design process. That's all for today, folks. I hope this video was useful and informative. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!